As I was bringing my husband of 40 years his coffee, I noticed that secret door in the garage. I wish I hadn't. When I opened it, it wasn't just my husband standing there. My own mother was there too. They both froze when they saw me, but they were the ones who were about to be truly frozen, because in that split second, I started planning how I was going to destroy both of their lives. My name is Marilyn. I'm 63 years old. I dedicated my entire life to that man, my husband David. I raised my children, watched them leave the nest. All I wanted now was a peaceful retirement in this quiet house. David had been acting strangely lately. He was always in the garage. "I'm fixing up the old car. It's going to be a surprise for you," he'd say. I believed him. I always believed. That morning, he again said he was working on the car. I took his coffee and went down to the garage. It was empty. "David?" I called out. No answer. The car itself was covered in 2 inches of dust. It hadn't been touched in months. That's when I smelled it. The stench of a lie. My eyes landed on that giant metal tool cabinet in the far corner of the garage. The one David always said, "Don't ever move that. It's dangerous back there." I pushed it with all my strength. It scraped aside with a groan. And there it was, a small steel door, cleverly hidden in the wall, with a keypad on it. My brain was screaming, "Stop, Marilyn, turn back!" But just then, I heard a muffled sound from inside, a giggle. It couldn't be. That was my mother's laugh. My heart pounding in my chest, I reached for the keypad. With trembling fingers, I entered David's birthday wrong. Our son's wrong. And then I punched in our wedding anniversary. A green light flashed. The sound of the lock, that horrible click, echoed through the garage. I gripped the cold metal handle and pulled the door open. That scent of lilacs wafting out, the perfume my mother had worn for years, made my stomach turn, and the sight I saw. I didn't wish I had never opened that door. I wished I had opened it years ago. The room behind that door was nothing like I expected. It wasn't some dark dungeon or creepy storage space. No, it was a fully furnished apartment, soft lighting, expensive furniture, a kitchenette in the corner with granite countertops, photographs on the walls, photographs of my mother and my husband, smiling, laughing, together, and there they were, standing in the middle of this secret little world they had built. My husband, David, 65 years old, the man I had cooked for and cleaned for and believed in for 4 decades. And my mother, Eleanor, 84 years old, the woman who raised me, who held my hand at my wedding, who kissed my children when they were born. They were holding coffee cups, like it was a normal Tuesday morning, like they were just 2 people having a casual chat in a secret apartment hidden behind a garage wall. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The 3 of us just stood there, frozen in time. David's face went white. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The coffee cup in his hand started to shake, and I watched as dark liquid sloshed over the rim and onto his fingers. He didn't even notice. My mother's reaction was different. Her eyes went wide, then immediately narrowed, not with shame, with calculation. I could see her brain working, trying to figure out what to say, what excuse to give, what lie to tell. But I didn't give her the chance. I stepped fully into the room and closed the door behind me. The sound of it clicking shut made both of them flinch. "Marilyn," David finally croaked out. His voice sounded like sandpaper. "This isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed. I almost broke down right there and laughed until I cried. Because what else do cheaters say? What else is there in the handbook of betrayal? "Really?" I said calmly, too calmly. "Because it looks like my husband has been spending his mornings in a secret apartment with my mother." "Sweetheart, please," my mother started, setting down her cup with a delicate clink. "You're misunderstanding the situation." "Am I?" I walked further into the room, my eyes taking in every detail. There was a leather couch that probably cost more than our living room furniture. A flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. A bookshelf filled with novels I recognized, books my mother had always loved. "How long has this been here?" Silence. "I asked you a question." My voice was still calm, but something in my tone made David flinch again. 3 years, he whispered. 3 years. 3 years of lies. 3 years of him disappearing into the garage while I sat upstairs watching television alone. 3 years of my mother making excuses about why she couldn't visit, why she was always busy, why she seemed distracted during our phone calls. "And how long have you two been—" I couldn't even finish the sentence. The word felt too disgusting to say out loud. "Marilyn, it's not like that," my mother said quickly. We haven't." "Then what is it like, Mother?" I turned to face her directly. "Please, enlighten me. Explain why my husband built you a secret apartment and why you've been sneaking into it for 3 years. My mother straightened her spine, that old defensive posture I remembered from childhood. When I was young and questioned her about anything, she would stand exactly like that, shoulders back, chin up, like she was preparing for battle. "Your father left me with nothing," she said coldly. "When he died, I had nothing. David offered to help." "Help?" The word tasted bitter. "This is help? A secret apartment? Secret meetings? Why didn't you just ask me for help? I'm your daughter." She looked away. That told me everything. "You didn't want my help," I continued, my voice getting stronger. "You wanted his." David finally found his voice again. "Marilyn, your mother was struggling. She was too proud to ask you. She came to me, and I just wanted to do something good. The apartment was supposed to be temporary, just until she got back on her feet." 3 years, I repeated. 3 years is temporary? "It's complicated," David said weakly. "No," I replied. "It's really not complicated at all. You built my mother a secret home and lied to me about it every single day. You looked me in the eyes and lied. Both of you did." I walked over to the bookshelf and picked up a framed photograph. It showed David and my mother at what looked like a restaurant. They were laughing, glasses of wine in their hands. The date stamp in the corner read 6 months ago. "Where was I when this was taken?" I asked, holding up the frame. Neither of them answered. "I'll tell you where I was," I said, my voice shaking now. I was at home, alone, making dinner for a husband who told me he had to work late. I ate by myself that night. I washed the dishes by myself. I went to bed by myself. "Marilyn, please." My mother tried again. "No." I cut her off. "You don't get to please me right now. You don't get to make excuses. I want the truth. All of it. Why?" My mother's mask finally cracked. Her eyes filled with tears. But I felt nothing. No sympathy. No compassion. Just cold, hard anger. "Because you have everything," she whispered. "You always have. A husband who loves you, children who adore you, a home, a life. Your father died and left me with nothing but debt and disappointment. And you were so wrapped up in your perfect little life that you never even noticed I was drowning." The words hit me like a physical blow, but I didn't let them knock me down. "So this is my fault?" I asked quietly. "I'm to blame because I built a life? Because I worked hard and made something of myself?" "That's not what I'm saying," my mother said, but her voice had lost its strength. "Then what are you saying?" I demanded. "Because it sounds like you're justifying betraying your own daughter because you were jealous." "I wasn't jealous," she snapped. "I was desperate." "And you?" I turned to David. "What's your excuse?" He looked down at the floor. I felt sorry for her. "Sorry for her," I repeated slowly. "So sorry that you built her a palace and lied to your wife for 3 years." It wasn't like that, he insisted. Then what was it like? I shouted. The calm was finally breaking. Tell me, David. Make me understand how this was okay. Make me understand how you justified this to yourself every single day. David's hands were shaking so badly now that he had to set his coffee cup down on the counter. He ran his fingers through his thinning gray hair, a gesture I had seen him do 1,000 times when he was stressed. But this time, I felt no urge to comfort him. This time, I wanted to watch him squirm. I knew it was wrong, he said finally. Every day I knew it was wrong. But your mother came to me in tears, Marilyn. She showed me the eviction notice. She told me she had nowhere else to go. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to tell me, I shouted. You were supposed to come to your wife and say, Marilyn, your mother needs help. We could have figured it out together. We could have helped her properly, openly, like a family. But instead, you went behind my back. You used our money, our home, to build this secret. I couldn't tell you, my mother interjected. You would have judged me. You would have made me feel small. I stared at her in disbelief. I would have helped you, Mother. That's what family does. But you didn't give me the chance. You took my husband instead. I didn't take him, she said defensively. Really? I walked over to the kitchenette and opened the refrigerator. It was fully stocked. Fresh vegetables, expensive cheeses, a bottle of wine. The kind of wine David always said was too pricey for us to buy. Who bought all this? Silence. Who pays for the electricity in here? The water? The furniture? More silence. David? I turned to my husband. I'm assuming you paid for all of this. Where did the money come from? He couldn't look at me. Our savings. Our savings, I repeated, my voice hollow. The savings we were supposed to use for retirement. The money we were supposed to travel with. The money I worked for, too. You spent it on this? It wasn't that much, he said weakly. How much? Marilyn, please. How much? I screamed. $47,000, he whispered. The room tilted. I had to grip the counter to keep from falling. $47,000. Nearly $50,000 of our money, gone. Spent on a secret apartment for my mother, while I clipped coupons and shopped sales and wore the same winter coat for 5 years because I was trying to save for our future. I'm going to be sick, I muttered, pressing my hand to my stomach. Sit down, my mother said, reaching for me. Don't touch me, I hissed, jerking away from her. Don't you dare touch me. I stumbled over to the leather couch and sat down, not because she told me to, but because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. My whole body felt numb. My mind was racing, trying to process everything, trying to understand how my life had become this nightmare. Marilyn, David said gently, moving toward me. Stay away from me, I said without looking up. Both of you, just stay away. They obeyed. They stood on the other side of the room, 2 guilty criminals waiting for their sentence. And that's when it hit me. That's when the numbness turned into something else, something cold and sharp and powerful. They were waiting for me to break down. They were waiting for me to cry, to scream, to fall apart. They were expecting the Marilyn they knew, the Marilyn who always forgave, who always understood, who always put everyone else's needs before her own. But that Marilyn was gone. She died the moment I opened that door. I looked up at them, and I saw the fear in their eyes. Good. They should be afraid. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly, my voice steady and cold. I'm going to leave this room. I'm going to go back upstairs, and I'm going to think very carefully about what I'm going to do next. Marilyn, David started. I'm not finished, I interrupted. You two are going to stay here. You're going to sit in this apartment that you built with my money and my trust, and you're going to wait. You're going to wait and wonder what I'm planning, and you're going to be very, very afraid. My mother's face had gone pale. What are you going to do? I stood up slowly, smoothing down my shirt. I haven't decided yet, but I can promise you this. Whatever I do, it will be exactly what you both deserve. I walked to the door, my head held high. My hand was on the doorknob when David spoke again. I love you, Marilyn. I know I messed up, but I love you. Please don't forget that. I turned back to look at him. Really look at him. This man who I had shared my life with, who I had trusted completely, who I had believed would never hurt me. You know what's funny, David? I said quietly. I don't think you know what love means, because love doesn't lie. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't build secret apartments and spend $47,000 behind someone's back. So no, David, you don't love me. You never did. The look on his face almost made me feel sorry for him. Almost. I opened the door and stepped out into the garage. The normal garage. The real world. I closed the door behind me and heard the lock click into place. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I smiled. Because they thought they had won. They thought they had gotten away with it. But they were about to learn something important about Marilyn. When you back a woman into a corner, when you take everything from her and think she'll just accept it, you better be prepared for what happens next. I walked back into my house, my mind already working, planning, calculating. They wanted to keep secrets? Fine. I could keep secrets too. They wanted to play games? I had been playing nice for 63 years. It was time to change the rules. I went to my bedroom and pulled out my laptop. It was old and slow, but it would do. I sat down at my desk and opened a new document. At the top, I typed, Operation Justice. It was time to destroy them both, methodically, completely, and they would never see it coming. First, I needed information. I needed to know exactly what they had been doing, exactly how deep this betrayal went. I needed names, dates, receipts, evidence. I thought about David's office. He kept all the financial records in there, credit card statements, bank records, receipts. He was meticulous about filing everything away. It was one of the things I used to admire about him. Now, it was going to be his downfall. I walked down the hall to his office and opened the door. It smelled like him, that mixture of cologne and old books. His desk was neat as always, everything in its place. I sat down in his leather chair and started opening drawers. The first drawer was full of office supplies. Pens, paper clips, sticky notes, nothing useful. The second drawer had old tax returns and insurance documents. Also nothing useful. But the third drawer, the bottom one, was locked. I stared at that little brass lock for a moment. David had never locked any drawer before. He had always said we had no secrets from each other, so why would he need to lock anything? I almost laughed at the irony. I went to our bedroom and found his keyring in his nightstand. He always emptied his pockets there before bed. I found a small brass key that looked like it might fit and went back to the office. It turned smoothly in the lock. The drawer slid open. Inside was a file folder. Just one. It was thick, bulging with papers. On the tab, written in David's neat handwriting, was one word, Eleanor. My hands were shaking again as I pulled it out and opened it. The first document was a bank statement, a separate bank account I had never known existed, in David's name only. The balance was 0, but the transaction history told a different story. Monthly withdrawals, $500 here, $800 there, sometimes $1,000, all marked cash withdrawal. The dates went back 3 years, just like he had said. I did the math in my head. Over those 3 years, he had withdrawn nearly $55,000, even more than he had admitted. Beneath the bank statements were receipts. Furniture stores, electronic shops, grocery stores, all paid in cash so they wouldn't show up on our joint credit card. All dated over the past 3 years. He had been meticulous about keeping track, probably for tax purposes, but now his careful record-keeping was going to bury him. There were more documents. A copy of a lease agreement. Not for an apartment, but for the garage space itself. Apparently, our garage had been split into 2 separate legal units years ago by the previous owner, and David had been paying rent to himself, probably for tax purposes. Clever. Illegal, maybe, but clever. And then I found the photographs. Not just the one I had seen in the apartment, but dozens of them. Printed out, dated, organized chronologically. David and my mother at restaurants. David and my mother at the park. David and my mother at the movies. My mother laughing at something David said. David helping my mother with her coat. They looked like a couple. They looked happy. They looked like they belonged together. My stomach turned again, but I forced myself to keep looking. I needed to see everything. I needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal. At the bottom of the folder was a letter, handwritten in my mother's distinctive cursive. It was dated 6 months ago. "Dear David," it began, "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for me. You've given me a home, a purpose, a reason to wake up in the morning. I know this situation is complicated, and I know we're both torn about keeping this from Marilyn. But I also know that she wouldn't understand. She's always been so rigid, so judgmental. She doesn't know what it's like to lose everything and have to start over. You've been my salvation, David. I don't know what I would do without you. With all my love, Eleanor." I read the letter 3 times. Each time the words hurt more. Rigid, judgmental. She wouldn't understand. This was how my mother saw me. This was what she truly thought. And David had kept this letter. He had filed it away carefully with all the other evidence of their secret life. I closed the folder and sat back in the chair. My mind was racing, but it was also strangely clear. The shock was wearing off, and in its place was something I had never felt before. Not anger, exactly. Not even hatred. It was determination. Pure, cold determination. I spent the next 2 hours going through every document in that folder. I made copies of everything using David's scanner. Bank statements, receipts, photographs, the letter. I saved it all to a flash drive and then deleted the files from his computer's history. I put the originals back exactly as I found them and locked the drawer again. I returned the key to his nightstand. If David checked, everything would look untouched. He would have no idea I had been there. Next, I needed to know more about the apartment itself. I went back down to the garage, but this time I didn't go inside. I stood in front of that metal door and looked at it carefully. There had to be other entrances. They couldn't be coming and going through the garage every time. It would be too obvious, too risky. I went outside and walked around the house. Our property was large, almost half an acre. The garage was detached, sitting at the back of the lot. I had never paid much attention to it before. It was just the garage, a place where we kept the car and some old boxes. But now, looking at it carefully, I noticed something I had never seen before. On the side of the garage facing away from the house, there was a small door. It was painted the same color as the siding, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. There was no keypad on this one, just a regular lock. I tried the handle. Locked, of course, but I had seen a spare key in David's drawer, one I hadn't recognized. I went back inside, grabbed the key, and tried it. The door opened smoothly. I found myself in a small mudroom, coat hooks on the wall, a shoe rack on the floor. Through another door, I could see the apartment. So this was how my mother came and went. She could park her car on the street, walk around the side of the garage, and slip inside without anyone noticing. No wonder I had never seen her here. I checked the street view from this angle. The door was completely hidden from the road by some overgrown bushes. Perfect for keeping secrets. I closed the door and locked it again. Went back inside the house. It was almost noon now, and I realized I hadn't eaten anything. I made myself a sandwich, but I could barely taste it. My mind was too busy working through the next steps of my plan. I needed allies, people I could trust. People who would help me without asking too many questions. The first person I thought of was my daughter, Sarah. She was 38, lived 2 hours away with her husband and 2 kids. She called me every Sunday without fail. She was loyal, smart, and tough. If I told her what her father had done, she would be devastated. But she would also be on my side. I was sure of it. But I couldn't tell her yet. Not until I had everything in place. If I told her now, she might confront David, and that would ruin everything. My son, Michael, was a different story. He was 41, worked in finance in New York. He and David had always been close. Too close. If I told Michael, there was a chance he would take his father's side. Or worse, he would tell David what I was planning. No, Michael was out. So who else? I thought about my friends, but most of them were also David's friends. Couples we had known for decades. I couldn't risk trusting any of them. In a divorce, people take sides. And I had no idea whose side they would take until it was too late. Then I remembered Linda. Linda Morrison, my old college roommate. We had lost touch over the years, but we had reconnected on social media a few months ago. She lived in California now, far away from all this mess. She didn't know David, didn't know my mother. She would be objective. And more importantly, she was a lawyer. I found her number in my phone and called before I could talk myself out of it. "Marilyn?" She answered on the third ring, sounding surprised. "Is everything okay?" "Linda, I need help," I said, my voice cracking slightly despite my best efforts to stay calm. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" I could hear the concern in her voice, genuine and immediate. "Not physically," I said. "But I've just discovered something, and I don't know what to do. I need legal advice. I need to know what my options are." "Okay, slow down," Linda said. I heard her moving, probably finding a quiet place to talk. "Tell me what happened." So I told her. Everything. The secret door, the apartment, the money, the photographs, the letter. I told her about my mother's betrayal and David's lies. I told her about the $47,000, though I knew it was actually more. I told her how I felt like my entire life had been a sham. Linda listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Linda?" I said, worried she had hung up. "I'm here," she said quietly. "I'm just processing. Marilyn, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry this happened to you." "I don't want sorry," I said, my voice hardening. "I want revenge. I want to make them pay for what they did. Tell me how." Another pause. Then Linda said, "Okay, here's the situation legally speaking. You're in a community property state, right?" "Yes." "That means that any money David spent from your joint accounts or joint assets belongs half to you. If he spent $50,000 without your knowledge or consent, he essentially stole $25,000 from you. That's financial abuse, and it's grounds for divorce with a very favorable settlement for you. Good, I said. What else? The apartment itself is interesting. If it's on your property, if you own the land and the structure, then you have every right to access it. You could theoretically change the locks. Kick your mother out. It's your property. Can I evict her? Legally? That's trickier, Linda admitted. If she's been living there for 3 years, she might have established tenancy rights, even without a formal lease. You'd need to give her proper notice, probably 30 days. But yes, eventually, you could evict her. What about David? Can I kick him out of the house? Not easily, Linda said. It's his house too, legally. But you could file for divorce and request that he move out as part of the separation. Given the circumstances, the financial abuse, the deception, a judge would likely grant that request. How long would a divorce take? In your state, with contested assets? Probably a year, maybe more. But Marilyn, here's what you need to understand. If you want revenge, if you really want to make them suffer, you need to be smart about it. Going to court is expensive and emotionally draining. Even if you win, and you probably would win, it's going to cost you. Time, money, stress. Is that really what you want? I thought about it. She was right, of course. A legal battle would be long and messy. David would hire a lawyer. My mother would probably testify on his behalf. Our children would be forced to take sides. Our friends would gossip. Everyone would know our business. What's the alternative? I asked. You make them come to you, Linda said. You control the narrative. You have all the evidence, right? The bank statements, the receipts, the photographs? Yes. Then you have all the power. You don't need a judge to punish them. You can do it yourself. You just need to be strategic. I'm listening. Linda's voice took on a different quality, sharper and more focused. This was Linda the lawyer, not Linda the friend. Here's what you do. First, you document everything. I mean everything. Every interaction you have with them from this point forward. Keep a journal with dates and times. If they make any threats, if they try to manipulate you, write it down. If possible, record conversations. Check your state's laws on recording first, but do it if you can. Okay, I said, already making mental notes. Second, you secure your finances. Today. Right now, after we hang up, go to your bank and withdraw half of everything in your joint accounts. Put it in a new account in your name only at a different bank. This protects you in case David panics and tries to hide assets. He wouldn't do that. I started, then stopped. Actually, he probably would. Exactly. Trust nothing at this point. Also, get copies of all your financial documents. Credit card statements, mortgage papers, investment accounts, retirement funds, everything. Make copies and store them somewhere safe, somewhere David can't access them. Where? Safety deposit box at your new bank, or send them to me. I'll keep them secure. I'll do both, I decided. Good. Third, and this is important, you need to decide what you actually want out of this situation. Do you want a divorce? Do you want David to stay but suffer? Do you want your mother out of your life? Do you want the money back? You need to be clear on your goals, because that will determine your strategy. I sat with that question for a moment. What did I want? A week ago, I wanted a peaceful retirement with my husband. I wanted Sunday dinners with my family. I wanted to grow old with someone I loved and trusted. But that future was gone now. Destroyed by the two people who were supposed to love me most. I want them to feel what I feel, I said slowly. I want them to understand what they've taken from me. I want them to lose everything that matters, the way I did. Okay, Linda said. Then here's what we do. We hit them where it hurts most. For David, that's his reputation. For your mother, it's her relationship with you and the grandchildren. We make them social pariahs. We let everyone know what they did, but we do it carefully. We don't look like the bitter ex-wife or the vindictive daughter. We look like the victim, which you are. How? You host a family gathering. You invite everyone, your kids, David's siblings, your mother's friends, your neighbors. You make it a big deal. An anniversary party, maybe? How long have you been married? 40 years, I said bitterly. Perfect. You plan a 40th anniversary party. You do it at your house. And at that party, in front of everyone, you reveal what you found. You show them the evidence. You let them see the photographs, the bank statements. You let David and your mother try to explain themselves in front of the people whose opinions they care about most. My breath caught. It was brilliant. It was cruel. It was exactly what they deserved. But won't that make me look bad too? I asked. Like I'm being dramatic? Not if you play it right, Linda said. You don't scream or cry. You stay calm. You present the facts. You let the evidence speak for itself. People will see you as the dignified victim, not the crazy wife. And David and your mother? They'll be the villains. No one will take their side. No one will want to be associated with them. What about my kids? I asked, my voice softer now. Sarah and Michael. This will destroy them. It will hurt them, Linda admitted. But Marilyn, they deserve to know the truth. And better they hear it from you, in a controlled environment, than from someone else later. You tell them, privately first, before the party. You give them time to process. You make sure they understand that you're not trying to hurt them. You're trying to protect yourself. I closed my eyes, imagining Sarah's face when I told her. Imagining Michael's. My babies. They weren't babies anymore. They were adults with their own lives and their own problems. But they were still my children. This would break their hearts. I don't know if I can do that to them, I whispered. Then David wins, Linda said bluntly. If you protect him to spare your kids' feelings, he gets away with it. He keeps the perfect father image. He keeps the respect of his children. And you lose everything and stay silent about it. Is that what you want? No, I said firmly. No, it's not. Then you have to be strong. You have to be willing to blow up your whole world to rebuild it better. Because right now, Marilyn, you're living in a house built on lies, and houses built on lies always collapse eventually. Better to demolish it yourself than wait for it to fall on your head. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing it and doing it were two different things. How much time do I have? I asked. Before I have to decide? As much as you need, Linda said. But the longer you wait, the more time David has to prepare his own defense. He knows you know now. He's probably already talking to a lawyer, already coming up with excuses. The element of surprise is your biggest weapon. Don't waste it. Okay, I said, feeling my resolve strengthen. Okay, I'll do it. The party, the reveal, all of it. Help me plan it? Of course, Linda said warmly. I'm here for you, Marilyn. Whatever you need. We'll make them regret ever underestimating you. We talked for another hour, working out the details. The date for the party, 2 weeks from now. The guest list. What evidence to present and how. Linda even offered to fly out and be there for moral support, but I told her no. This was something I needed to do myself. When I finally hung up, it was almost 3 p.m. David and my mother were probably still in the apartment, waiting for me to come back, wondering what I was doing. Good. Let them wonder. Let them stew in their guilt and fear. I made myself another cup of coffee and sat down at my laptop. I opened my email and started composing the invitation. Join us for a special celebration of 40 years of marriage, I wrote. Sunday, 2 weeks from today, at our home, 2 p.m., light refreshments will be served. Please RSVP by Friday. I made a list of recipients: Sarah and her husband, Michael and his wife, David's 2 sisters and their families, my mother's closest friends, the ones she played bridge with every Tuesday, our neighbors, the Hendersons and the Johnsons, the pastor from our church, David's golfing buddies, my book club ladies, everyone who knew us, everyone who thought we were the perfect couple. 42 people in total. 42 witnesses to their shame. I sent the emails before I could second-guess myself. Then I called Sarah. "Mom?" She answered cheerfully. "This is a nice surprise. What's up?" "Sweetie, I need to talk to you about something," I said. "Are you free to talk right now? Is it a good time?" Her tone changed immediately, becoming concerned. "Yeah, I'm free. The kids are at school. What's wrong? You sound upset." I took a deep breath and started to tell her. I told her about finding the secret door in the garage. I told her about the apartment and my mother being there with David. I told her about the money and the 3 years of lies. Sarah listened in stunned silence, occasionally gasping or making small sounds of disbelief. When I finished, she said nothing for a long moment. Then I heard her crying softly. "Mom," she finally choked out. "I can't believe this. I can't believe Dad would do this to you. And Grandma? How could she?" "I don't know, sweetheart," I said gently. "But I need you to know something. I'm going to handle this, and it's not going to be pretty. In 2 weeks, I'm hosting what everyone thinks is an anniversary party. But I'm going to tell everyone what happened. I'm going to show them the evidence. I need you to be there, and I need you to be strong for me." "Of course I'll be there," Sarah said immediately. "Mom, I'm so angry right now. I want to drive over there and scream at both of them. How dare they?" "I know," I said. "But don't. Not yet. Let me do this my way. Can you do that for me?" "I'll try," she said, but I could hear the fury in her voice. "Have you told Michael yet?" "No, I'm going to call him next. But Sarah, I need to know something. If Michael takes your father's side, if he doesn't believe me or tries to defend him, I need you to stay with me anyway. Can you promise me that?" "Mom, of course," Sarah said fiercely. "I don't care what Michael says. You're my mother. You've always been there for me, and I'm going to be there for you now. Always." My eyes filled with tears for the first time that day. "Thank you, baby. That means everything to me." "I love you, Mom. We're going to get through this." After we hung up, I sat for a few minutes gathering my courage before calling Michael. He was at work, but he answered on the second ring. "Hey, Mom," he said, his voice distracted. I could hear office sounds in the background. "What's up? Can this be quick? I'm in the middle of something." "Michael, I need you to find somewhere private to talk. This is important." Something in my tone must have alarmed him because I heard him moving, probably to a conference room. "Okay, I'm alone. What's going on? Is someone hurt?" "In a way," I said. "Michael, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen to the whole thing before you say anything. Can you do that?" "You're scaring me, Mom." "Just listen, please." I told him the same story I had told Sarah, but I watched my words more carefully. Michael had always idolized his father. They were so similar, both ambitious and driven and sometimes emotionally distant. I didn't know how he would react. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then Michael said, "That's not possible. Dad wouldn't do that. You must have misunderstood something." My heart sank. I didn't misunderstand, Michael. I saw it with my own eyes. I have proof. Bank statements, photographs, everything. "There has to be an explanation," he insisted. "Did you even let Dad explain? Or did you just jump to conclusions like you always do?" "Like I always do." The words stung. "I gave them plenty of chances to explain, Michael. Your father admitted everything. He admitted building the apartment. He admitted spending our savings. He admitted lying to me for 3 years. There's no misunderstanding here. I don't believe you, Michael said flatly. Dad would never betray you like that. And Grandma? Come on, Mom. Grandma is 84 years old. What, you think she and Dad are having an affair or something? That's crazy. I never said they were having an affair, I said, trying to keep my voice level. But they were lying to me. They were keeping secrets. They built a secret apartment and spent $55,000 of our money without my knowledge. That's not okay, Michael. Surely you can see that's not okay. Maybe there was a good reason, Michael said defensively. Maybe Grandma really was in trouble and Dad was just trying to help. You're always so quick to judge, Mom. You never give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I felt like I had been slapped. I'm quick to judge? Michael, your father lied to me every single day for 3 years. He looked me in the eyes and lied. How am I supposed to give him the benefit of the doubt? You're being dramatic, he said, and I could hear the dismissiveness in his voice. This is exactly like you. Something doesn't go your way, and you blow it up into this huge thing. You make everyone miserable because you can't just let things go. Let it go? I repeated, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. He stole from me, Michael. He spent our retirement money on your grandmother without even telling me. How is that something I should just let go? You know what? I don't have time for this, Michael snapped. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. When you calm down and start acting rational, give me a call. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to you trash Dad based on some misunderstanding. Michael, please, I started, but he had already hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, feeling numb. My son didn't believe me. My son had taken his father's side without even hearing the full story, without even seeing the evidence. He had dismissed my pain, called me dramatic, accused me of being irrational. This was worse than David's betrayal. This was worse than my mother's lies. This was my child, the baby I had carried and birthed and raised, telling me I was wrong, telling me I was the problem. I sat there for a long time, just staring at nothing. The coffee in my cup went cold. The sun moved across the sky. And slowly, the numbness transformed into something else, something harder and colder and more determined than before. Fine. If Michael wanted to side with his father, that was his choice. But he would see the truth eventually. They all would. And when they did, when they understood the full extent of the betrayal, Michael would have to live with the fact that he had abandoned his mother in her darkest hour. I went back to my laptop and checked the RSVPs. Already, several people had responded. We'll be there. Wouldn't miss it. Congratulations on 40 years. I felt a grim satisfaction. They had no idea what they were in for. My phone rang again. David's number. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. Again, I ignored it. Then a text message came through. Marilyn, please. We need to talk. Please come back to the garage. Let us explain properly. I deleted the message without responding. Another text, this time from my mother's number. Darling, I know you're upset. I understand. But please don't do anything rash. Let's talk about this like adults. Like adults. As if I was the child throwing a tantrum. As if I was the one being unreasonable. I blocked both their numbers. The next few days passed in a strange sort of limbo. I continued my normal routine, shopping for groceries and doing laundry and cooking meals. But I cooked only for myself. I bought only what I needed. When David came into the house trying to talk to me, I walked away. When my mother called from a different number, I hung up as soon as I heard her voice. I slept in the guest bedroom with the door locked. I heard David trying the handle the first night. heard him calling my name softly through the door. I didn't respond. After a while, he gave up. During the day, when David was at the garage or at work, I continued gathering evidence. I found more receipts hidden in odd places, tucked into old books, and buried at the bottom of drawers. I found a second credit card I didn't know about, one David had opened in his name only. The statement showed more expenses for the apartment, nearly $20,000 more. I compiled everything into a presentation on my laptop. Photographs, bank statements, receipts, all organized chronologically to tell a clear story. 3 years of lies laid out in damning detail. I practiced presenting it, standing in front of my bedroom mirror and speaking calmly and clearly. I couldn't cry during the presentation. I couldn't show weakness. I had to be strong and factual and utterly convincing. Sarah called me every day, sometimes multiple times a day. She was furious on my behalf, ready to come over and confront David herself. I kept telling her to wait, to be patient. She told me that Michael had called her, trying to convince her that I was overreacting. They had argued. They weren't speaking to each other now. That hurt almost as much as Michael's initial reaction, knowing that I was tearing my children apart. But there was no going back now. The party invitations had been sent. 42 people had RSVP'd, yes. The food had been ordered. There was a bakery making a cake that said, "Happy 40th anniversary," in cheerful blue letters. The irony wasn't lost on me. 5 days before the party, David finally cornered me. I was in the kitchen making coffee when he walked in and stood in the doorway, blocking my exit. "Marilyn, this has to stop," he said. His voice was tired, and he looked like he hadn't slept well. "Good. You can't ignore me forever. We live in the same house." "Not for much longer," I said calmly, pouring my coffee. "What does that mean?" "It means I've contacted a divorce lawyer. It means I'm done." His face went pale. "You don't mean that. Marilyn, please, just let me explain." "You had 3 years to explain, David. You chose not to. I don't want your explanations now." "I was trying to protect you," he said desperately. "Your mother was in such bad shape. She was so humiliated about losing everything. She begged me not to tell you. She said it would hurt your relationship with her." "And you believed that?" I asked, turning to face him fully. "You thought the best way to protect our relationship was to lie to me for 3 years and spend our savings behind my back?" "I didn't know what else to do," he said, running his hand through his hair again. "I was stuck between you and her. I couldn't win either way." "You could have told me the truth," I said. "You could have trusted me. You could have treated me like an equal partner in our marriage instead of some child who needed to be protected from reality." "I'm sorry," he said, and tears actually started forming in his eyes. "Marilyn, I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I know I should have told you, but please, please don't throw away 40 years of marriage over this. We can fix it. We can go to counseling. Whatever you need, I'll do it." "Counseling?" I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "David, you fundamentally betrayed my trust. You showed me that when it came down to it, you chose my mother over me. You chose secrets over honesty. No amount of counseling is going to fix that." "So that's it?" he said, his voice breaking. "You're just giving up? After everything we've been through together?" "I'm not giving up," I said quietly. "You gave up 3 years ago when you started lying to me. I'm just finally accepting the truth of what our marriage really was." "What about the kids?" he tried. "What about Sarah and Michael? This is going to destroy them." "Sarah already knows," I said. "And Michael has made his position very clear. He thinks I'm being dramatic and irrational. He's on your side." David's face showed genuine surprise. I didn't ask him to take sides. You didn't have to. He's your son. He's just like you. Of course he took your side. I picked up my coffee cup. Now please move. I have things to do. Marilyn, he said, but I pushed past him and walked away. The day before the party, I went to the beauty salon. I got my hair cut and colored, my nails done, a facial. I bought a new dress, something elegant and expensive. I wanted to look perfect tomorrow. I wanted everyone to see me at my best, strong and beautiful and unbroken. That evening, Sarah arrived with her husband and kids. They were staying the night so they could help me set up in the morning. When they pulled into the driveway, I went out to meet them. Sarah hugged me tightly, and I could feel her shaking. I can't believe we're actually doing this, she whispered in my ear. We are, I said firmly. Tomorrow, everyone will know the truth. Her husband, Tom, gave me an awkward pat on the shoulder. He was a good man, steady and kind. He didn't know what to say in this situation, but I appreciated his presence anyway. The kids, my grandchildren, ran into the house excited to see Grandpa. They didn't know yet. They were too young to understand. But someday, they would know. Someday, they would understand why their grandparents got divorced. David was in the living room when we came in. He looked at Sarah with a pleading expression, but she turned away from him. She wouldn't even make eye contact. He flinched like she had struck him. Where's Grandma? My youngest grandson asked, looking around. Everyone froze. The question hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. She's not feeling well, I said smoothly. She won't be able to make it to the party tomorrow. That's too bad, he said, already distracted by his toys. But David and Sarah both looked at me, understanding the lie I had just told. My mother would be at the party tomorrow. She just didn't know it yet. That night, after the kids were in bed, Sarah and Tom and I sat at the kitchen table. David had retreated to his office, giving us space. I showed them the presentation I had prepared, walking them through every piece of evidence. Tom whistled low when he saw the total amount of money spent. That's insane. He spent all that without telling you? Every penny, I confirmed. Mom, are you sure you want to do this in front of everyone? Sarah asked gently. It's going to be brutal. I'm sure, I said. They humiliated me in private. I'm going to expose them in public. It's only fair. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, then I'm with you. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm standing by your side. Thank you, sweetheart, I said, squeezing her hand. We went to bed around midnight. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., wanting plenty of time to prepare. But I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment again, the moment I opened the door and saw them standing there. My husband, my mother, together in their secret world. When my alarm went off, I was already awake. I got up, showered, and put on my new dress. I did my makeup carefully, making sure I looked calm and composed. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked older than I felt, with lines around her eyes and gray in her hair, despite the recent coloring. But there was something else too. A strength I hadn't seen before. A determination. You can do this, I told my reflection. You can do this. Sarah and Tom were already in the kitchen when I came downstairs. They had started setting up, arranging chairs and tables on the back patio. It was a beautiful October day, sunny but not too warm. Perfect party weather. The caterers arrived at 10, bringing trays of sandwiches and appetizers. The cake came at 11, enormous and covered in white frosting. I had them set it up on the main table, right where everyone could see it. David emerged from his office around noon. He was wearing a nice suit, and he had clearly made an effort to look presentable. But I could see the fear in his eyes, the uncertainty. He knew something was going to happen today. He just didn't know what. "Marilyn," he started, but I held up my hand. "Not now, David. We have guests arriving soon." At 1:30, I called my mother from the landline. She answered on the second ring. "Marilyn," she said, relief flooding her voice. "Thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you for days. Please, darling, we need to talk about this." "We will," I said calmly. "Today, I'm having some people over, and I'd like you to be here. 2 p.m. Don't be late." "People over?" she said cautiously. "What people?" "You'll see," I said, and hung up before she could ask more questions. At 1:45, the first guests started arriving. The Hendersons from next door, carrying a bottle of wine. David's sister, Margaret, and her family. My book club ladies, chattering excitedly about how wonderful it was that David and I had made it to 40 years. Each time someone congratulated us, each time someone said how lucky we were to have such a strong marriage, I smiled and thanked them. And each time, I saw David flinch. Sarah stood next to me, her hand on my arm, grounding me. Tom was helping in the kitchen, making sure everyone had drinks. The kids were playing in the backyard, their laughter floating through the open windows. By 2 p.m., almost everyone had arrived. 40 people crowded into our home and spilling onto the patio. Everyone except my mother. At 2:15, I saw her car pull into the driveway. She got out slowly, looking confused and wary. She was wearing her good dress, the blue one she saved for special occasions. She had done her hair and makeup. She looked like she was going to a party. She had no idea she was walking into her own execution. She came through the front door, and her eyes swept the room, taking in all the guests, the decorations, the cake. Then she saw me standing by the fireplace with Sarah, and understanding dawned on her face. Her expression went from confusion to horror in a split second. "Marilyn," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is this?" "This," I said loudly, enough for everyone to hear, "is a party, a celebration, but maybe not the kind you were expecting." The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. I could feel their curiosity, their confusion. David was standing near the kitchen door, and I saw him go rigid with fear. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice steady and clear. "I know you're all here to celebrate my 40th wedding anniversary with David, and we will celebrate, in a way. But first, I have something I need to share with all of you. Something you all deserve to know." "Marilyn, don't," David said, stepping forward. "Please, not like this." "Not like what, David?" I asked, looking at him directly. "Not in front of everyone?" "Why not? You did this in front of me. You and my mother built your little secret world right under my nose. I think it's only fair that everyone else gets to see it too." Gasps rippled through the room. People looked at each other, confused and intrigued. My mother had gone pale, her hand clutching her purse like a lifeline. I walked over to my laptop, which I had set up on a table near the fireplace. I connected it to the TV on the wall, and the screen lit up with my first slide. 7 days ago, I began. I discovered something. A secret that my husband and my mother had been keeping from me for 3 years. And then I started the presentation, showing them everything. The photographs, the bank statements, the receipts. The letter my mother had written calling me rigid and judgmental. The room was completely silent except for my voice, explaining each piece of evidence calmly and methodically. Some people looked shocked, some looked angry. Some couldn't even look at David or my mother, staring at the floor instead. When I finished, I turned off the laptop and faced the room. "So that's the truth," I said simply. "My husband spent over $75,000 of our retirement savings to build my mother a secret apartment. He lied to me every single day for 3 years, and my mother let him, all while accepting his help and writing letters about how I wouldn't understand. No one spoke. The silence was deafening. Then Sarah stepped forward and put her arm around me. "My mother," she said, her voice shaking but strong, "is the strongest, most gracious woman I know. She dedicated her entire life to our family. She deserves better than this. And I, for one, stand with her completely." One by one, the other guests started moving. David's sister Margaret walked over and stood next to Sarah. Then the Hendersons. Then my book club ladies. Then Tom. Soon, there was a line of people standing with me, facing David and my mother across the room. David looked devastated, his face crumbling. My mother just looked furious, her eyes burning with rage. "You'll regret this," she hissed at me. "You'll regret humiliating us like this." "No," I said calmly. "I don't think I will. You humiliated yourselves. I just let everyone see it." And with that, I turned my back on them both and walked into my future. 6 months later, I signed the final page of the divorce papers and slid them across the mahogany desk. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who Linda had recommended, gave me an approving nod. "That's it," she said. "You're officially a free woman, Marilyn." Free! The word felt strange in my mouth. After 40 years of being David's wife, I was just Marilyn now. Just me. The settlement had been even better than I'd hoped. The house was mine. Half of David's retirement fund was mine. And because of the financial abuse, the judge had ordered him to pay back every dollar he'd spent on that apartment, with interest. It would take him years to pay it all back, but I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared about the principle. David had moved into a small apartment across town. The same week the divorce was finalized, his company had quietly asked him to retire early. Word had spread about what he'd done, and apparently, they didn't want someone with questionable ethics managing their accounts. He'd lost his job, his reputation, and most of his friends. I should have felt guilty about that. The old Marilyn would have felt guilty. But the new Marilyn just felt satisfied. My mother had it worse. After the party, after everyone had seen the evidence of her betrayal, her entire social circle had evaporated. Her bridge club uninvited her. Her church group stopped calling. Even her own sister, my Aunt Carol, had stopped speaking to her. She'd tried to stay in the apartment, claiming squatters' rights, but Patricia had handled that swiftly. 30 days' notice, delivered by a sheriff. I'd watched from my kitchen window as she moved her things out, making trip after trip to her car with boxes and bags. She never looked up at the house, never tried to talk to me. She was living in a retirement community now, according to Sarah. A cheap one, the kind with thin walls and shared bathrooms. Her savings were gone, spent on legal fees trying to fight the eviction. She was living on Social Security alone. Part of me wondered if I'd gone too far. But then I'd remember that letter, the one where she called me rigid and judgmental. I'd remember the 3 years of lies, and the guilt would fade. Sarah visited me every week now, sometimes twice a week. We'd grown closer through all of this, bonded by the shared trauma. She'd told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. That meant more than she could ever know. Michael was a different story. He still wasn't speaking to me. He'd sent a brief email after the party, saying I'd embarrassed the family and destroyed Dad's life for no reason. I'd written back once, attaching copies of all the evidence, asking him to please look at it objectively. He never responded. Sarah said he was struggling with it, that he'd always put Dad on a pedestal and couldn't reconcile the father he knew with the man who'd done these things. She thought he'd come around eventually, but I wasn't holding my breath. Some wounds took a long time to heal. Some never did. I walked out of Patricia's office into the bright spring sunshine. The world felt bigger somehow, full of possibilities I'd never considered before. I was 63 years old, divorced, and alone for the first time in my adult life. And I was happy. I drove to the coffee shop downtown, the one I'd discovered a few months ago. It was a cozy little place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I'd started coming here every Tuesday and Thursday morning, treating myself to an expensive latte and a pastry while I read or worked on my laptop. "The usual, Marilyn?" the barista, a young woman named Emma, asked with a smile. "Actually, I think I'll have something different today," I said, scanning the menu. "Surprise me, something celebratory." "Big day?" "The biggest," I said. "My divorce was finalized." "Oh," Emma's eyes widened. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to—" "Don't be sorry," I interrupted, smiling genuinely. "It's a good thing, trust me." She made me something with caramel and whipped cream and a dusting of cinnamon. It was too sweet and probably had 1,000,000 calories, but I didn't care. I sat at my favorite table by the window and sipped it slowly, watching people walk by on the street. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "How did it go?" "It's done," I typed back. "I'm officially free." "I'm so proud of you, Mom. Want to come over for dinner tonight? The kids miss you." "I'd love that," I replied. Another text came through, this one from Linda in California. "Congratulations, warrior woman. How does it feel?" "It feels like I can breathe again," I wrote back. And it was true. For 3 years, without even knowing it, I'd been suffocating under the weight of David's lies. And for the 40 years before that, I'd been so busy being a wife and mother that I'd forgotten how to just be Marilyn. But I was remembering now. I'd started taking a watercolor painting class at the community center. I'd joined a hiking group that met every Saturday morning. I'd even been on 2 dates, though neither had gone anywhere. That was okay. I wasn't looking for another husband. I was looking for myself. The secret apartment had been demolished. I'd hired a construction crew to tear it all down and convert the space back into a normal garage. It had cost me $5,000, but it was worth it. Every trace of their betrayal was gone now, replaced by clean walls and fresh paint. Sometimes I still thought about that morning, the morning I opened the door and saw them standing there. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I'd never found it. If I'd gone on living in ignorance, believing everything was fine. But I always came to the same conclusion. I was glad I found it. I was glad I knew the truth. Because living a lie, no matter how comfortable, was worse than facing a painful reality. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello? Marilyn?" It was my mother's voice, small and hesitant. "Please don't hang up." I should have hung up. I should have blocked the number like I'd blocked all her others, but something made me stay on the line. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. I wanted to say. She paused, and I heard her take a shaky breath. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. You were right, about all of it. I was jealous of you, and I let that jealousy poison everything. I destroyed our relationship, and I destroyed your marriage, and I can never take that back. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Even if you never forgive me, I need you to know that. I sat there, holding the phone, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no forgiveness. Just nothing. "Okay," I said finally. "I hear you. Is there any chance—" she started, her voice breaking. "Is there any chance we could try to fix this? Maybe get coffee sometime? Talk?" "No," I said simply. "There isn't. You're not my mother anymore, Eleanor. You stopped being my mother the day you chose to betray me. We're done." "Marilyn, please." I hung up, blocked the number, set my phone down, and went back to my coffee. It should have felt cruel. It probably was cruel. But I'd learned something important over the past 6 months. I didn't owe anyone my forgiveness. Not David. Not my mother. Not even Michael, if he couldn't see the truth. I only owed myself honesty and respect, and the courage to walk away from people who hurt me. The sun was warm on my face through the window. In a few hours, I'd go to Sarah's house and have dinner with my daughter and her family. Tomorrow, I had my watercolor class. This weekend, the hiking group was doing a trail I'd never been to before. My life wasn't perfect. It wasn't what I'd imagined it would be at 63. But it was mine. Really, truly mine. Not built on someone else's lies. Not lived for someone else's comfort. Just mine. I finished my celebratory coffee, gathered my things, and walked out into my new life. And I never looked back.